You look at your business and chaos everywhere, okay? Client onboarding is messy, fulfillment is inconsistent, marketing is random, hiring is broken, support is overwhelming, financial tracking is a disaster. Everything needs systems. So what do? You try to fix it all. You start documenting client onboarding, then you jump to marketing because that feels urgent. Then someone asks about hiring, so you start working on that. And 2 months later, nothing's finished. You have half-built systems everywhere and nothing actually working better. And here's what's happening. You're trying to systemize everything at once instead of focusing on what matters the most. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can prioritize what to systemize first, why trying to fix everything will kill your progress, and the simple framework that tells you exactly where you can start. So let's get into it. First of all, let's be clear. Systemization is hard work. It requires deep focus, and you have to understand the current process. You have to document it clearly, test, refine, and then you have to get your team to actually use it. And all that takes time and it takes energy. And if you're spreading that effort across 10 different areas, you're making progress on nothing. You're context switching between different problems, never going deep enough on any one system to actually finish it. So unfinished systems are basically worthless, right? A half-documented process doesn't really help anyone. It's just another thing that's sitting in your Google Drive collecting dust. You need completed systems that people will actually follow, not a collection of started projects that never ship. So how do you decide what to systemize first? There's a simple framework. Look at frequency and look at pain. So frequency is how often things happen, like how often this process occurs inside your business. Is it daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly? What's the frequency? The more frequent something is, the more leverage you will get from systemizing it. If you systemize something that you do 20 times a week, you'll get 20 improvements per week, right? If you systemize something that you do once a quarter, you get 4 improvements per year. That's a huge difference. So frequency compounds. Then the other thing, pain, is how much chaos or time this process currently creates. Is it breaking constantly? Is it consuming hours of your time? Is it creating client problems? Is it blocking other people's work? High pain means high return when you fix it. So now you can plot everything on those 2 dimensions. High frequency, high pain, those are the processes that go first. These are your daily fires that consume time and create lots of problems in your business. So systemize these and you will immediately feel relief. Low frequency, low pay processes go last or maybe never, right? If something rarely happens and it isn't really causing problems, then you might not want to waste time systemizing it. Now, most founders get this wrong in very predictable ways. So mistake number 1 is systemizing what's already working. So if you have a process that runs smoothly, it's not perfect, but it's fine, and you're going to spend weeks documenting and optimizing it, then, why? If it's not broken and not causing pain, then just leave it alone. Focus on what's actually creating problems. Mistake number 2 is you're systemizing based on what sounds impressive. So you want to build this elaborate marketing system because it feels strategic, or maybe you saw a YouTube video or a podcast or whatever. But meanwhile, your client onboarding is a disaster and people are canceling. So fix what's hurting you the most, not what sounds cool. Mistake number 3 is systemizing without involving the people who are actually going to do the work, right? So if you document the process based on how you think it should work, then you hand it to your team, guess what's going to happen? They're going to ignore it because that's not how they actually do it. Or worse, it doesn't account for real scenarios they deal with every day, right? Systems need input from the people running them, or they won't work in reality. You as the founder need to drive the system building forward in your company, but you need to involve the people who are actually performing the tasks, and they can do a lot of the work also for you in systemizing your business. So again, if you're not sure where to start, just look for your biggest bottleneck. What's the one thing that if it worked better would free up the most time or solve the most problems? And for a lot of founders, that's going to be client onboarding if you have a service-based business. Every new client takes hours of your time. You got the calls, the setup, the questions, the hand-holding. It's so inconsistent that the clients have different experiences. Some get great onboarding, some get confused, and it pulls you away from everything else. So if you systemize onboarding, what changes? Every client gets the same experience. Your team can handle it without you. You probably get back 10 hours a week, or maybe more, maybe less, depending on your business, right? Either way, it's massive leverage. Or maybe the fulfillment is the bottleneck for you. Maybe every project requires you personally, and you can't scale because you are the delivery mechanism. Now, if you systemize delivery in that scenario, then suddenly you can serve more clients without working more hours, right? Or maybe it's sales. Maybe every sales call is different because there's no process. Maybe half of your calls go nowhere because you're winging it, you don't have a system. In that case, what you want to build is obviously a sales system, right? And increase your sales close rates. Now, either way, you're going to find the one thing that's holding everything else back, and you start there. Now, let's talk about the Pareto principle of systemization, the 80-20, right? Because here's the truth. You don't need perfect documentation. You don't need to cover every edge case, every possible scenario that might happen, and you don't need elaborate SOPs for everything. All you need is good enough systems for the things that matter. Because there's hundreds and hundreds of processes in every business. Business is a pretty complex thing, right? And if you spend time documenting the ones that don't really matter that much, you're not going to get very far, and you're going to get frustrated, and then you're going to give up because you feel like this is pointless, we're just wasting time. Most processes can be systemized with a simple checklist. Do this, and then do this. And then if this happens, then you should do that. That's it. 5 to 10 steps covering the whole process, right? So you don't need a 20-page manual. That's not what an SOP is. You need a one-page checklist that people can actually reference, and you don't need to systemize every process in your business. Like I said, you need to systemize the 20% of processes that cause 80% of the problems or maybe consume 80% of your time. So get those working smoothly, and then your business will start transforming. And the rest can stay informal, or you systemize them later when they become actually a problem inside your business, right? But don't try to build perfection. You don't need perfect systems for everything. This is not how you make progress. Build good systems for what matters and then move on. So here's the sequence that works when you're systemizing things, right? So once you pick your first systems to build, you're going to follow the sequence. So you document the current process, not the ideal one, right? How does it actually work today with all the messiness and all the workarounds? Write it down. You can improve it later, but first you need to capture reality. And yes, once you systemize it, improvement becomes a lot more consistent, predictable, systematic, basically, right? But either way, first capture reality. And then you test it with the person who will actually use it or who is using it on a day-to-day basis. And you have them follow the documented process, and then they'll tell you what's missing or what's wrong, right? They'll catch things that you didn't see, and then you revise it based on their feedback. If they get them involved. And now it's not your process, it's the team's process, right? They help build it, so they will actually use it. They're more invested in it. You roll it out, and then you enforce it for 2 weeks. You make it mandatory. Everybody has to follow the process exactly as it was documented. No shortcuts, no variations. You're testing if it works in real conditions. And then after 2 weeks, you can get a feedback and you can refine. If you have more volume with that specific process, maybe that's 1 week for you, right? But either way, you're going to get a feedback. You're going to see what broke, what was unclear, what edge cases came up, and you update the process to handle those situations. And now you have a working system. It's not perfect, and it doesn't need to be, but it's functional, and that's all that matters. Then you can move to the next priority. Now, you might think that this is too slow, like one system at a time, and you got 20 things or 100 things that need fixing. Yeah, sure, but if you try to fix them all at once, guess what? You'll finish none of them, right? But if you finish one, let's say every 2 weeks, then by the end of the year, you're going to have 26 systems built. Finished systems, not started projects, and the compound effect is real, right? Each system you finish frees up time and reduces chaos. Now you have more time to keep building. And that makes each next system easier to build. After you systemize, let's say, onboarding, you have more space to work on fulfillment. After you systemize fulfillment, you have even more time, you have more bandwidth, now you can work on marketing. Momentum builds, right? But if you try to do everything simultaneously, you will end up killing your momentum. You always like starting new things, but you're never actually finishing and completing it. So one at a time, completed and working, is better than doing 10 at the same time, all half done and useless. So just to summarize, again, you don't need to systemize everything. You need to systemize what matters. Look for high frequency, high pain processes. Find your biggest bottleneck and then build one system at a time. You fully finish it, and then you make sure it works. And then you move on to the next one. And you stop trying to fix everything at once. You start finishing one thing at a time. And that's how you actually build systems instead of just documenting chaos. And that's how you can create real leverage instead of just creating more documentation that sits in your Google Drive and nobody actually uses and is just collecting digital dust. And that's how you can transform your business step by step instead of overwhelming yourself and trying to fix it all at once.